Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What if I told you that everything you've been told about success, about limits, about what you can and can't dog is just a program, a script someone else wrote for you? And what if I told you that you could rewrite it, that you could brainwash yourself for success? See, we're all being brainwashed by social media, by comfort, by failure stories people wear like medals. But what if, instead of being a slave to that noise you hijacked the system, you flipped the script, rewired your mindset, and made your brain a weapon for winning? This isn't about fake positivity. This is war. A war against mediocrity. A war against the version of you that wants to hit snooze and binge Netflix instead of building the life you know deep down you were meant for. So buckle up. Today, we're not here to inspire. We're here to reprogram, to burn out the bullshit, and to brainwash ourselves for greatness, for discipline, for savage, undeniable success. Comfort is a seductive liar. It whispers to you when the alarm goes off at 5 a.m., telling you to stay in bed. It tells you you've worked hard enough when you've barely scratched the surface. Comfort is the enemy that wears the mask of peace, of rest, of balance, but in reality, it's slowly suffocating your ambition. You don't even notice it happening. That's the trick. It doesn't knock you out in one punch. It slowly drugs you. One skipped workout, one day of procrastination, one excuse. Before you know it, a year has passed, and you're in the same place you swore you'd never stay stuck in. We live in a world that constantly tells us to take it easy, to go with the flow, to treat ourselves. That messaging is everywhere. From the food we eat to the apps on our phone. Dopamine is being weaponized. You're being rewarded for doing nothing. The system doesn't want you strong, driven, and independent. It wants you docile, obedient, predictable. And the fastest way to get there is to make you comfortable. Because when you're comfortable, you stop moving, you stop growing, you stop fighting. Look at every person who's achieved real lasting success. I'm talking about the savages who dominate in their field. Athletes, entrepreneurs, thinkers, creators. They didn't get there by prioritizing comfort. They got there by treating comfort like the enemy. They went to war with it. Every day they chose the harder path, the inconvenient path, the one that sucked. But forged character. It's not about being reckless or burning yourself out. It's about building an internal compass that doesn't point toward ease. It points toward effort, toward challenge, toward the edge of your limits. You need to become the kind of person who runs toward discomfort. You need to brainwash yourself into seeing pain, failure, struggle, not as things to avoid, but as signals that you're on the right track. Every moment of resistance is a moment of transformation. If it's hard, it's shaping you. If it's uncomfortable, it's expanding you. That's the new belief system. That's the new programming. The brain is adaptable. Neuroplasticity is real. What you expose it to repeatedly, it becomes. So if every day you expose your mind to small doses of discomfort, cold showers, fasting, intense workouts, silence, boredom, you are literally training your brain to get stronger, more focused, more immune to chaos. That's the opposite of what most people are doing. Most people are training their brains to chase dopamine, distractions, validation. You want to train yours to chase pressure, purpose, and delayed gratification. Think about animals in the wild. They don't have comfort. Every day is survival instinct, adaptation. And because of that, they're sharp, they're alert, they're present. Now look at the average human. Overfed, overstimulated, underchallenged. We've been domesticated by luxury. The body has no reason to stay lean. The mind has no reason to stay alert. We're not evolving. We're decaying. Comfort is not your friend. It's not a reward. It's a drug. And like any drug, it creates dependence. The more you indulge, the harder it is to quit. But once you break that cycle, once you rip yourself out of that mental cage, you realize something insane, the stuff you were avoiding. The hard workouts, the cold mornings, the silent nights with your own thoughts, that is where the real growth lies. That's where confidence is born. Not in the warm, cozy pit of ease, but in the furnace of voluntary suffering. Your brain is the most powerful weapon you own, but most people treat it like it's running on autopilot. They think thoughts just happen. They assume beliefs are just who they are. That's nonsense. The truth is, your brain is programmable. It's plastic, adaptable, rewritable. And if you don't take control of that process, someone else will. Society, media, trauma, fear, they'll all take turns writing the code in your mind. If you want to succeed at the highest level, you need to hijack that process. You need to rewire your mind like a savage scientist. Most people are sleepwalking through life with outdated software. Childhood beliefs, societal limitations, false assumptions, they run deep in the operating system. Imagine trying to run the latest software on a decade-old phone. It crashes, it lags, it glitches. That's how people are living mentally. They've never questioned the code that's running in their head. They've never sat down and asked, who wrote this belief? Why do I think this way? What if this thought is just a virus? Rewiring your mind starts with awareness. You have to catch your own thoughts in the act. The second you think, I'm not good enough, I'm too late, I can't do that, you pause and dissect it. Where did that come from? Who planted that seed? Was it a parent, a teacher, a failure, a fear? If it's not serving your mission, it's dead weight, and dead weight needs to be cut. But awareness isn't enough. You need repetition. You need new inputs. You need to feed your brain with thoughts, language, and imagery that align with the person you want to become. This is science. Neural pathways get stronger the more you fire them. So if you want to think like a winner, act like a beast, dominate your field, you need to repeat that mindset until it becomes your default setting. Not once, not for a week, but daily. Obsessively. That's what brainwashing yourself really means. You're scrubbing the old programming clean and replacing it with elite code. Not fake affirmations, not wishful thinking. Strategic, deliberate mental reprogramming. Visualizing outcomes. Saying things out loud with conviction. Training your focus. Feeding your subconscious with proof that the mission is working. And cutting out everything that doesn't fit that framework. This is why your environment matters. The people around you, the content you consume, the words you use, they're all influencing your internal wiring. You can't expect to think like a savage if you're surrounded by weak minds. You can't build unshakable focus if your brain is wired to check your phone every 5 minutes. You have to become intentional, ruthless even. Guard your inputs. Treat your mind like a high-performance lab, not a trash bin for distractions and junk. And let's be clear, this process isn't comfortable. You're going to face resistance. You're going to want to default to old habits. That's the old wiring fighting for survival. But if you stay disciplined, if you show up daily and keep reinforcing the new patterns, your brain will adapt. It will get sharper, stronger, more aligned with who you're becoming. Think like a scientist, but act like a savage. Run experiments, observe yourself, tweak your habits, test your limits, take notes on your own behavior. You're not a victim of your mind. You're the architect of it. Every belief you hold is a choice. Every limitation is a decision. And every day you wake up, you have a chance to rewrite the code. That's how you take control. That's how you rewire. That's how you build a brain that bends reality to your will. Language is not just a way to express yourself. It's the framework that shapes your reality. The words you speak, especially the ones you speak to yourself, become the blueprint for your actions, your beliefs, and your identity. Every time you say, I can't, I'm not good at this, I'm just not that type of person, you're laying bricks in the wall that keeps you stuck. Those phrases might seem harmless, but they're not. They're spells, mantras, code that programs your mind to accept limits as facts. If you want to change your life, you start by eliminating weak language from your vocabulary. Weak language is sneaky. It sounds like humility. It sounds like being realistic. But in reality, it's a verbal escape hatch. It's a way of giving yourself an out before you even try. Saying, I'll try, instead of, I will. Or maybe, instead of, definitely, is a way of softening the blow of potential failure. But here's the truth. Success doesn't care about your comfort. It responds to clarity, confidence, and conviction. When you speak in absolutes, you move differently. When you say, I must, I will, it's happening, your brain aligns with that energy. Your actions tighten. Your focus sharpens. You start to embody the outcome before it's real. Most people don't even realize how often they're sabotaging themselves with their own words. I'm just not a morning person, they say, and now every early wake up becomes a struggle, not because of biology, but because of belief. I'm terrible at public speaking, and now they avoid every opportunity that would sharpen that skill. They think they're describing reality, but really they're creating it. Words are not reflections of truth. They're tools for shaping it. You have to develop a zero-tolerance policy for weak speech. That means listening to yourself the way a coach listens to an athlete. Every time a limiting phrase slips out, you catch it. You replace it. You override the old script with one that serves the mission. This isn't about being blindly positive or pretending everything is perfect. It's about speaking power into your process. Saying, I'm learning, instead of, I suck. Saying, I'm figuring it out, instead of, I can't do it. The difference seems small, but it's everything. Your language also influences your identity, and identity drives behavior. When you say things like, I'm just lazy. You're not just describing a behavior, you're adopting a role. And once that role is locked in, your brain will do everything it can to stay consistent with it. That's how humans work. We crave internal consistency. So if you want to become the kind of person who crushes goals, who wakes up hungry, who builds and executes, you start by speaking like that person, even before you feel like it, especially before you feel like it, because the words come first, the belief follows, and the behavior seals it. This also means being hyper aware of the words you let other people speak around you. If your circle is constantly throwing around phrases like, that's impossible, you're being unrealistic, that'll never work, then that's mental pollution. Those words seep into your subconscious. They chip away at your certainty. You need to be militant about your linguistic environment. Surround yourself with people who talk in solutions, not problems. People who say, how can we make it happen? Instead of, why it probably won't work. Even in your inner dialogue, the tone matters. Self-talk can either be your best coach or your worst enemy. The voice in your head needs to be trained, disciplined, and weaponized. Stop letting it run wild with doubt and excuses. Take control of the narrative. Speak with intention. Choose power over pity. Replace softness with steel. Discipline isn't a personality trait, it's a skill. It's not something you're born with or without. It's something you build by brick, rep by rep, day by day. And if you want to brainwash yourself for success, discipline has to become a daily ritual, not a reaction to motivation. Motivation is a mood. Discipline is a system. Motivation gets you started, but discipline is what keeps the machine running when the excitement fades, when the results are slow, when no one's watching and nothing feels easy. The problem is most people treat discipline like a punishment, like it's some sort of harsh restriction on freedom, but it's the opposite. Discipline is how you earn your freedom. Freedom from regret, from weakness, from mediocrity. Every time you show up and do the thing you said you would do, especially when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing control over your own mind. You're stacking proof that you can be trusted, that your word to yourself actually means something. That's how real confidence is built, not from hype, not from climates, but from keeping promises to yourself in silence. The ritual part is key. Discipline doesn't work if it's random. You can't wake up and wonder what kind of mood you're in. You can't let the day push you around. You have to own it from the jump. That means systems, routines, anchors. You wake up the same time. You train at the same time. You execute key tasks like it's non-negotiable, just like brushing your teeth. It's not glamorous, but it's foundational. That consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates identity, and identity creates automatic action. The reason rituals are powerful is because they remove decision fatigue. You don't have to ask yourself, should I work out today? You just do it. It's part of who you are now. You don't debate with your emotions. You act according to your values, not your feelings. That's the shift. Most people are slaves to their feelings. They'll do the work when it's convenient, when they're inspired, when the weather's perfect and the playlist hits right. But high performers don't need perfect conditions. They create their own internal climate. Discipline is what allows them to execute regardless of external variables. And it's not about doing a million things. It's about doing the right things over and over and over again. Boring. It's boring. It's repetitive. But that's what greatness is built on.
Reps.
You want a strong body?
Reps.
A sharp mind?
Reps.
A successful business?
Reps.
There's no hack for that. No shortcut. You ritualize the grind until it becomes part of your nervous system. Until you don't feel right not doing it. Until the discomfort of skipping it outweighs the discomfort of showing up. Discipline also means saying no. Saying no to distractions, to cheap dopamine, to the easy option. Every time you choose the hard thing over the easy one, you're making a deposit in your mental bank account. You're proving to yourself that your mission matters more than your momentary comfort. And over time, that sense of purpose becomes magnetic. You start craving the process. You start loving the suck because you've tasted what it feels like to win on your own terms. You also need to track it. Hold yourself accountable, not with shame, but with precision. Look at your behaviors like a scientist. Did you follow through today? Why or why not? What triggered the fall off? What routine helped you lock in? Discipline grows through awareness and adjustment. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Consistently aware, consistently focused, consistently aligned with your mission. Your mind is a battlefield, and every piece of information you consume is either ammunition for your goals or poison for your progress. The inputs you allow into your life, what you watch, listen to, scroll through, and surround yourself with, are shaping your thoughts, your energy, and ultimately your actions. You can't expect to have laser focus if your brain is being flooded with junk. You can't build a champion mindset while consuming content that glorifies victimhood, distraction, and mediocrity. If you're serious about brainwashing yourself for success, you need to cut toxic inputs and feed relentless focus. Start by auditing your information diet. Look at your phone. Look at your social media feed. Look at the people you follow, the videos you watch, the conversations you engage in. Is any of that making you sharper, stronger, more locked in? Or is it just mental clutter disguised as entertainment? People say they don't have time, but they're scrolling 4 hours a day on garbage that adds zero value. That's not a time problem. That's a priority problem. That's a lack of awareness of how sacred your attention really is. Attention is currency. Whatever you pay attention to, you're investing in. If you spend your day focused on drama, negativity, celebrity gossip, and clickbait, don't be surprised when your life feels small and chaotic. You've programmed your brain to seek nonsense. But if you flood your environment with books, podcasts, videos, and conversations that feed your mission, your brain adapts. It starts filtering for opportunity. It becomes a magnet for clarity, strategy, and momentum. That shift doesn't happen by accident. You have to curate it ruthlessly. Toxic input isn't just about what's on your phone. It's also about who's in your space. The people you surround yourself with are either pushing you forward or pulling you under. There is no neutral energy. Every person in your life is either oxygen or poison. And too many people are loyal to relationships that are draining them. Friends who joke about failure. Family members who constantly doubt. Colleagues who complain more than they act. You can still love people and create distance. You can still be kind without allowing their energy to infect your mindset. This doesn't mean you become some antisocial robot. It means you become selective. You protect your mental space like a lion protects its territory. You set boundaries. You filter conversations. You don't engage in useless debates. You don't waste time convincing small minds to think big. Instead, you put yourself in rooms, physical or digital, where the standard is high, the talk is direct, and the focus is on building something meaningful. That's how you elevate your baseline. Feeding relentless focus also means simplifying your environment. Too much noise, too many choices, too much clutter. It all fractures your attention. You don't need a dozen productivity tools. You need one clear system. You don't need 10 different goals. You need one main target and a ruthless plan to hit it. Success is subtraction. You remove the distractions until only the mission remains. And then you build your day, your space, your habits around that mission. Relentless focus isn't about intensity 2047. It's about intention. It's about doing what matters, fully present, fully locked in, without splitting your mind in 1,000 directions. It's about training your brain to ignore noise and zero in on signal. That comes from practice. You sit down, eliminate everything that doesn't serve the task, and you do deep work. No tabs open, no phone buzzing, just you and the process. You train that focus like a muscle, and over time it becomes your edge. Visualization isn't wishful thinking, it's mental conditioning. It's the act of rehearsing success so intensely, so vividly, that your brain starts to treat it like a memory instead of a fantasy. That's how you brainwash yourself to win. You see it before it happens, feel it before it's real, live it internally until it becomes inevitable externally. This isn't some fluffy motivational trick. It's how elite athletes, top performers, and combat-tested warriors program their nervous system to perform under pressure. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. And visualization is preparation for the mind. Most people use their imagination against themselves. They obsess over worst-case scenarios, replay failures, anticipate rejection, fear embarrassment. That's visualization too, just in reverse. It's mental reps of losing. It's negative programming on loop. And your brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined event and a real one. So if all you feed it is fear, doubt, and hesitation, it starts building neural pathways around those emotions. That becomes your default operating system. But you can flip that. You can turn your mind into a highlight reel of the future you want to dominate. Start with clarity. You can't visualize success if you're vague about what it looks like. What does your ideal day look like? What kind of work are you doing? How do you walk, talk, think, and feel when you're operating at your highest level? What does winning smell like, sound like, taste like? Get specific. Your brain responds to detail. You're not just imagining success. You're crafting a mental movie with you as the lead character, already living the result. The more sensory input you bring into the image, the deeper the imprint. Then comes repetition. You don't do this once and expect a breakthrough. You do it daily. In the morning, before bed, during transitions. You train your brain to lock in on that vision until it becomes second nature. Like muscle memory for your mindset. Every time you visualize with intensity, you reinforce belief. Every time you see yourself succeed in your mind, you reduce the fear of doing it in real life. It's not magic, it's mechanics. The brain believes what it experiences repeatedly. So you give it reps, you give it certainty, you give it a mission it can't ignore. The trick is not to just see the outcome, but to see the grind. Don't just imagine the trophy, the applause, the result. Visualize the early mornings, the reps, the setbacks, the fatigue. Visualize yourself pushing through the resistance with grit and fire. That way, when real challenges hit, they're not foreign, they're familiar. You've already lived them. You've already conquered them. And now your nervous system responds with power instead of panic. That's the difference between dreaming and programming. One just feels good. The other prepares you for war. Visualization also sharpens your focus. When you have a clear mental image of where you're going, it's easier to say no to distractions. You stop chasing everything because you're locked onto one thing. Your behavior starts to align with your identity. You start catching yourself in the moment, asking, does this action match the person I see in my mind? If it doesn't, you course correct. Not because of guilt or pressure, but because the vision is too real to betray. That's when your goals stop being external. They become who you are. And over time, something wild happens. That version of you that started as an idea starts to feel familiar, natural, like a memory. Because you've rehearsed it so often, so completely, that it becomes your internal truth. And when your internal world believes it, your external world has no choice but to catch up. You stop chasing success, you start acting like it's already done. And your actions follow. Relentlessly, precisely, unshakably.